Imagine a city throwing the greatest party in its history. Music playing, wine flowing, thousands of people laughing and dancing in the streets. And at that exact same moment, an enemy army is already inside the walls. Not approaching, not surrounding. Inside. That is not a movie scene. That actually happened. And the people celebrating had absolutely no idea they were already dead. Welcome to Epoch Stories, where we bring history back to life, not as a school lesson, but as the gripping, cinematic, deeply human story that it actually was. If you're returning, welcome back. If this is your first time here, you picked the perfect video to start with. Today we are talking about one of the most haunting events in ancient history. A city so confident in its own greatness that it threw a massive celebration on the very night it fell forever. A night where arrogance, prophecy, and one unforgettable military maneuver collided to end an empire that had ruled for over 2,000 years. This is the story of Babylon, and the night it died laughing. Before we go any further, if you're the kind of person who loves history told this way, raw, cinematic, and real, hit that subscribe button right now and turn on notifications. You don't want to miss what's coming next on this channel. Now, let's go back to 539 BC. Babylon was not just a city. It was a statement. Built along the banks of the Euphrates River in what is now modern-day Iraq, Babylon was the most powerful, most advanced, and most breathtaking city on the face of the earth. Its walls were so thick that ancient historians claimed 2 chariots could ride side by side along the top of them. The famous Ishtar Gate, covered in brilliant blue glazed tiles and golden dragons, stood as one of the most magnificent structures ever built by human hands. And the Hanging Gardens, one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, were said to rise so high they looked like mountains growing out of the city floor. This was a place that made visitors stop and question whether they were still on Earth. And the man sitting on the throne the night everything changed was King Belshazzar, son of the great Nebuchadnezzar, heir to an empire that had never once been broken. Belshazzar was not a nervous king. He had every reason to feel safe. Babylon's walls were nearly 90 feet tall and wide enough to house entire communities. The city had enough grain stored inside to feed its population for 20 years without a single supply coming in from outside. And the Euphrates River ran directly through the city, providing a constant source of fresh water no siege could cut off. So when word came that Cyrus the Great and his Persian army had surrounded the city, Belshazzar did not panic. He did not call an emergency war council. He did not order his generals to prepare for the worst. He threw a party, not a quiet dinner, not a modest gathering, a full royal feast. 1,000 of his nobles were invited. Gold and silver cups taken from the sacred Jewish temple in Jerusalem, the very cups his father had seized when Babylon destroyed that city, were brought out and filled with wine. Belshazzar wanted to show the world, and perhaps himself, that Babylon feared nothing. Not Cyrus, not the Persians, not God himself. And that decision would cost him everything. Now here is something most people never learn in school. Cyrus the Great had not come to simply wait outside those walls. He was one of the most brilliant military minds in the ancient world. And he had already figured out something Belshazzar had completely overlooked. The Euphrates River. The river entered Babylon through large openings at the base of the city walls, flowing underneath and through the city. It was one of Babylon's greatest advantages. But Cyrus saw it differently. He saw it as a door. His engineers began diverting the river. Slowly and silently, they redirected the flow of the Euphrates into a nearby marsh. And as the water level inside the city dropped lower and lower, something extraordinary happened. The gaps beneath those massive, indestructible walls became shallow enough for a man to walk through. While Belshazzar's guests were laughing and drinking and the music was at its loudest, Persian soldiers were wading quietly through the lowered riverbed, slipping under the walls of the greatest city on earth, and emerging on the other side. Inside Babylon, no battering rams, no siege towers, no long bloody battle, just water, patience, and one king too arrogant to imagine that anyone could ever reach him. And now, if you're finding this story as incredible as I do, pause for just a second and hit that like button. It genuinely helps this channel grow and tells the algorithm that history like this deserves to be seen. If you're new here, subscribe and join the Epic Stories family. Now back to Babylon. Back at the feast, something strange happened that has been talked about for thousands of years. In the middle of all the noise and celebration, the fingers of a human hand appeared. No body, no arm, just fingers, moving slowly across the plastered wall of the palace, writing words that nobody in the room could understand. The Bible records this moment in the book of Daniel. The entire room went silent. Belshazzar's face turned pale. His knees began to shake, and his guests, the most powerful people in the empire, stood frozen, staring at words carved into the wall by an invisible hand. The writing was eventually interpreted by the prophet Daniel, who had been brought into Babylon years earlier as a captive. His message was direct and devastating. God had numbered the days of Belshazzar's kingdom. He had been weighed and found lacking, and his empire was about to be divided and given to his enemies. That same night, Belshazzar was killed. And Babylon, the city that had stood for over 2,000 years, the city that called itself eternal, the city that was celebrating while it was already falling, passed into the hands of Cyrus the Great and the Persian Empire without a single major battle fought at its walls. The greatest city in the world fell not because it was weak. It fell because it believed it could not fall. There is something deeply unsettling about this story that stays with you long after you finish hearing it. These were not foolish people. Babylon's engineers were geniuses. Her armies were powerful. Her walls were real. But somewhere along the way, confidence became arrogance, and arrogance became blindness. Belshazzar looked at everything his father had built and decided that it was enough, that the walls were high enough, that the water would always flow, that the gods would always protect him. He stopped paying attention to the river because the river had always been there. And that is exactly where empires die, not in the middle of battles, but in the middle of feasts, when the music is loud and the wine is full and nobody is watching the water level drop. History has shown us this pattern more times than we can count. The greatest threat to any powerful civilization is rarely the enemy at the gate. It is the celebration happening inside. Babylon did not fall because Cyrus was stronger. Babylon fell because Belshazzar stopped being afraid. And the moment you stop being afraid of what can destroy you, you have already lost. That is the story of the city that celebrated while it was dying. One night, one feast, one river, and 2,000 years of power gone before morning. If this video moved you or taught you something you did not know before, please leave a comment below. Tell me what part of this story shocked you the most. Was it the river strategy? The mysterious writing on the wall? Or the fact that Belshazzar knew the army was outside and still chose to party? I genuinely want to know what you think. And if you are not subscribed yet, now is the time. We tell stories like this every single week. Real history, real emotion, told the way it was always meant to be told. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and I will see you in the next one. Babylon fell in a single night, but its story, that lives forever.